Right, good afternoon, grade 9s. Right, we can start. It's now 2 o'clock. So I'm going to start now. Now, grade 9s, I would like to think that you are hearing me from where you are. Hello, grade 9s, may you unmute yourself?
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you so much. All right. So I'm going to switch off my video, then we move on. So what we are just going to talk about today, it's all about the revision for matter and material. Then when we are done with matter and material, then we move on to forces, then electricity. That's what we are going to deal with, because these are the major topics that are going to be in your test. All right. So let me then share a screen with you. Then from there, I'll switch off my video. Right. So the first question that we are going to deal with is the one that is on my screen here. I hope you are seeing the screen, right, on that side. Is everyone seeing the screen? Please, may you respond?
Yes, sir.
All right. Now, the first topic or first question there, it's matter and material. Then we've got that question number 8. So I'm just using these ones as, for revision purposes, right? Now, if you can then just see here, the question says, study the symbol 16, O and 8, and use the periodic table provided to answer the question. Unfortunately, when I posted the questions, I did not include the periodic table. In your test or in an exam, a periodic table will always be provided, right? So you may use any periodic table to answer that question, but in an exam or during the test, the periodic table will be provided. Now, so looking at that question, it then goes on to say, name the element that the above symbol represent. Now, if you check now, the symbol which is shown there, right? You can see there that there's 16, there's 8, and there's O, which simply means that the symbol that we are shown there is the symbol for what? Oxygen, right? The answers are on the right-hand side of my screen. I think you can see that, right? Now, if you check on that symbol, it is starting with 16, then there is 8. Normally, the way it is shown in a periodic table is not the way it is shown there, right? But when you check in the periodic table, it will show you 8, O, and 16. Now, since O is in order for us to identify that element, you have to go back, you have to go to the periodic table and check and confirm what element it is. So if you check with the periodic table, if you can allow me to just open that periodic table. I have a periodic table here with me. Now, if you can check in the periodic table, our periodic table will always be having atomic number at the top. Atomic number at the top. Then thereafter, we have the symbol as is shown on the screen here now. The symbol, then we have the atomic mass. I pronounce it as mass. The atomic mass. Those are the 3 important things that you must know in grade 8 and in grade 9. Right, so if you check, like I was saying, it always starts with the smaller number. That's the atomic number. So in that question, it was written in a vice versa way. They started with the atomic mass, then the atomic number. Then the symbol O is now directing us now in our periodic table. The only element that has got the symbol O is the oxygen, where my cursor or my pointer is, right? So it has got 16 and 8. That's the only element that has got what? 16 and 8, right? Yes, we do have other elements that are having 16. Say, for example, sulfur immediately below oxygen there. But if you check the other number, it's what? 32. So that pair of 16 and 8 is only there on oxygen, right? Yes, 16 is also on sulfur, but the other number is not 8. So automatically, it then means then that our element is specifically for what? Oxygen only. So we are using that pair, the 16 and 8. So the element that has got 16 and 8, it's only oxygen. So it means our element is what? Oxygen, right? So that's the reason why we are saying it is what? Oxygen. Then we move on to the second question there. Give the element atomic number. Like I was saying that the element, the element there is oxygen. So it simply means then that the atomic number for oxygen, it's always what? 8. It is always 8. Since we are saying it's what? Oxygen. It means the atomic number is 8. If you write it as 16, you are going to be marked wrong there. Why? Because the periodic table was provided. So you have to make use of the information in the periodic what? Table. And you must use it in the correct manner or in the correct order. Then from there, 8.3, the element, is it metal, non-metal, or semi-metal? Oxygen is non-metal. Oxygen is non-metal. It doesn't have the properties of metals, right? Then 8.4, write down the group number of the element in the periodic table. Right, if you still remember, when we posted the notes for periodic table, the periodic table has got groups. It has got elements that are put in periods, right? So in this case here, sorry, let me then just move this slightly up. So I was saying a periodic table has got, there are groups, then there are also periods, right? So let me then just show it here. Now, if you can just check on the screen there, you can see here that we are having groups. Groups are always written on the uppermost part of the periodic table. In other words, groups are in column form. So we've got the first group here, the Roman numeral 1, that's the first group. Then the second group, we've got the Roman numeral 2, right? That's the second column. Then we have got third group here, right? Then we have got fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, and eighth, right? These are the groups. And those groups, they are very, very important because it's like they will, they are providing information onto us to say, okay, these elements here that are in the same column or in the first group have got one electron on the outermost shell of that atom, of that element. So the atom has got one atom, right, in the outermost shell. Then the second group, it means there are also two atoms that are outside, right, or in the outermost shell. That's the importance of groups. Then the periods are the rows, right? They are on the left-hand side of the periodic table. They are the rows. So this is the first row, right? Since it is the first row, it simply means it has got what? It has got one energy level, right? There is one cycle or one ring or one orbital space for the electrons, right? Then the second one, the period number 2, simply means there are two rings or there are two orbital spaces around the nucleus, right? So there are two energy levels there. Then period 3 starts with sodium. Again, it's now informing us that there are 3 energy levels that are there. I think you are getting the point there, right? That's the importance of the period. So the group tells us the number of electrons in the outermost shell. The period, we are informed there of the orbital spaces that we are having around the nucleus. How many orbital spaces are there, or how many rings are there? If we are to look at what Bohr's diagram or the Bohr's,
Fully charging.
right? So that's the importance of Hello? Is it a question? Right. So let me now go to the question now. So the question was, write down the group number of the elements in the periodic table. So it's just a matter of going back to the periodic table, then you just check on the groups. So oxygen is in group what? 6, right? That's oxygen. Then 8.5. Write down the name of the compound formed when the element in your answer in 8.1 react with carbon. Remember, it's oxygen. When oxygen react with carbon, it form what? Carbon dioxide, right? That is if carbon is completely combusted or is completely burnt, it forms carbon dioxide. But if it is not completely burnt, it can form what we call carbon monoxide, right? So the product that we normally talk about is carbon dioxide. That's the product which is going to be produced when carbon react with oxygen. Then 8.6. This is where there was most of the challenges, especially on the question that I once posted on Google Classroom, right? Where it says draw and label, so draw a labeled atomic structure to represent the element in your answer to question 8.1. So please, whenever you are asked to draw an atomic structure, always remember that we are to draw the diagram by using what we call Ball's diagram, right? We have to make use of Ball's diagram. I would like to think that everyone is in. I'm going to close this. Right, I just wanted to type something here, to write something, so this one is not responding. Right, anyway, fine. When we are talking about atomic structure, we must always draw our diagram by using what? Ball's diagram. This is Ball's. Hello? Now, so I was talking about Ball's diagram. I've just typed it there. This is Ball's diagram. We use Ball's diagram whenever we are to show the atomic structure of an element, right? So, since it is oxygen, if you still remember what I said, it's like I said, group informs us of the number of electrons that are in the outermost shell, right? Then period, it informs us of the number of rings or orbital rings that must be there, right? Now, so according to groups, they are supposed to be what? It's in group 6, which means there are 6 atoms in the outermost shell. And this is the outermost shell where my pointer is. Unfortunately, my pointer is just in the form of a line there, right? Then the period, these 2 rings that we are having, these are the orbital what? Rings around, or the orbital spheres around the nucleus. It is in period number 2. That's oxygen. It's in period number 2. Then the innermost ring is always having a maximum of 2 electrons, right? Then the outermost ring there, it has got what? 6. So 6 plus 2 gives us 8 electrons for oxygen. So this is the diagram. Then, because it is saying draw a labeled atomic structure, then we have to identify the what? The neutron. The neutron is in the nucleus there, right? Then you've got the proton, and we have got the electron, right? So that's what we must do whenever we are asked to draw an atomic structure, right? So I'm emphasizing this idea to say always make sure that you draw the Ball's diagram. Otherwise, you'll be marked wrong, right? Now, if the question specifies type of the diagram, right? Say, for example, it may say use what? Use a model, or use models, or use beads, or show by using what? Circles. It means you are to draw a diagram using what? Beads, or using what? Those structures that you are asked to do, or sorry, to use. So, but if the question just say draw an atomic structure, and it doesn't specify the type of the diagram, make sure that you draw the Ball's diagram. I think that one is clear, right? Now, so the first question, we are done with that one. Then, are there any questions with regards to the first question? If there are no questions, then let me move on to the next one. Next question on matter and material as well. Now, we are still dealing with the periodic table. Then in this case, if you can just see, it says here, use the attached periodic table of elements to answer the questions below. I did not attach the periodic table, right? But in an exam, like I said earlier on, that in an exam or in the test, a periodic table will be attached, right? So you must make sure that you will make use of that attached periodic table, right? Now, so in this case, the first question, or before we go to the first question, the symbol here, or the diagram that we are given, is 1612, and there is X. Now, if you check on the periodic table, we don't have an element that starts with an X, right? Right? Now, the first question says the symbol for the element represented by X in the above diagram is. In other words, we are being asked to find this element or to identify the element from the periodic table. Then allow me again to go back to the periodic table. Remember, it's 1612. Now, if you check on the periodic table here, right, we have got 16 at the top. And here, where my pointer is, there's 16. The element is what? Sulfur. But the atomic mass is not 12, it's 32. Which means the element might not be sulfur, because where there is 32, there is 12, which is wrong. Then let's check the element that has got atomic number 12. If you go on to atomic number 12, here we are having 12, but if you check the other number, it's not 16, it's 24. Then it then means then that we don't have such an element on our periodic table. We don't have an element that has got that pair of 16, 12. Now, so what you can then just do, if it is in an exam situation, you can then just identify any element, right, that has got one of those numbers, right? So you can check here on our periodic table. Yes, we also have got this other material or element that has got 6, 12, which is the 6 there is not 16, right? Now, so because it has got what? 12, someone may say, okay, the element marked X is what? Carbon, right? But note that the atomic number there is not the one that is written there, but we are now just making use of what? 12 there. The reason to why I am saying this could be the element is we cannot see an element that has got that pair in our periodic table. So I'm just now taking any element that is on the periodic table that has got one of those numbers. So someone can say it's carbon. It's fine, no problem. We'll mark that one as correct because there was a mistake in that particular question, right? Then someone may say it's what? Magnesium. It has got 12, atomic number 12, but the mass number is not the same as the one that we have there. Because of it having 12, we can take that one to be a correct answer as well, right? Then someone may then make use of the 16 that is in there, right? The atomic number is 16 as sulfur, but note that the mass number is not the same as the one in the what question, right? this was just a mistake in the what? In the question, right? So any of those elements that I've just mentioned, someone may say it's carbon, someone may say it's magnesium, or you can say it's what? Sulfur, right? So we are just identifying elements that has got that part or one of the numbers, right? So we can mark it as correct. But in the exam, we are not going to make that mistake. But if that mistake is made in an exam, so you can just treat it as the way I've just explained it, that we can just identify an element that has got what? That one of the numbers, right? Now, let me now go back to the question. So I was saying this, the element that has got 16, 12, we cannot have such an element. So in this case, you can say it's carbon, it's sulfur, or it's magnesium. It's fine, right? But in an exam or in the test, we'll try by all means not to make mistakes on our papers, right? Fine. But I think we have learned something from that mistake, right? Then, the name of the element is, right? Remember 9.1, it was the symbol. Now, what is the name of the element? Right, if you used 16, it means the name is sulfur. Please note there are those two spellings for the same element, sulfur, right? They are known. Any of those words is correct. Now, if you used 12 as the atomic number, it means you are going to say it's magnesium, right? Then if you use the 12 as the mass number, it means it is what? Carbon. So any of those numbers are correct. We'll just make a follow-up from 9.1. Then 9.3. How many protons does the element have in its nucleus? Now, boys and girls, remember that the number of protons, it's exactly the same as the number of electrons in an atom, right? So you must note that the number of protons is the same as the number of electrons. So which means if you say your element is sulfur, it then means then that your number of protons will be what? 16. That's the atomic number. Atomic number, remember, represents the number of electrons in an atom, right? So if you mention that it's sulfur, it means there are 16 protons. If your answer was magnesium, it then means then that the number of protons is what? Is 12, right? Then if your answer on 9.1 was carbon, it means your atomic number will be what? 6. That's what it means now.
$750 million.
Hello, is it a question?
$675 million.
All right. If you want to talk about something which is not related to what we are doing, I'll advise you please just mute yourself so that we don't have some disturbances. Now, then I'm continuing now. Now, so please take note of the atomic numbers that are in the periodic table. It's very, very important. Remember the number of electrons, it's exactly the same number of protons in an atom, right? And the number of electrons are written at the top of an element in the periodic table. And it is known as what? It is known as the atomic number, right? Now, then let's move on to the next question. Oh, let me admit this people, then I move on. Otherwise, it's now blocking my view now. Right, the next question, that's 9.4. Is the element a metal or a non-metal? So in this case, boys and girls, you must know your periodic table and you must know elements and you must know properties of what? Metal and non-metals. Now, so if your answer on 9.1 was carbon, it means it is non-metal. If your answer was sulfur, sulfur is non-metal. And if your answer was magnesium, it means then that magnesium is what? It's metal. Right? So you must know the metals, non-metals, and semi-metal elements, right? So semi-metal elements are those elements that have got properties of metal and some properties of non-metal. So you must know those elements from your periodic table. Then if there are no questions, I can proceed. Any questions? Fine.
No,
Then 9.5.
Say,
Uh-huh.
say, I don't understand number 9.4.
9.4. 9.4 is asking us whether the element that you have written on 9.1 is metal or non-metal. Remember, a periodic table is made up of elements. So all these elements that are there on the periodic table, they are either metals, non-metals, or semi-metal. If you check on the periodic table, it is even shaded. Some of the periodic table are shaded, but the one that you will be given in an exam, it won't show you all those what different elements. It just gives you all the elements that appear the same, right? They are not shaded, or they are not identified, or they are not indicated whether they are metal or non-metallic, but it must be known by you that all the elements are in three groups, or all the elements in the periodic table are in three groups. That's metals, non-metals, and semi-metal elements. That must be known. So you need to study your periodic table. If you go onto the periodic table in the textbook, right, at the back of your textbook, your NS textbook, it is shaded, or metals are shown, are indicated by colors. Then non-metallic elements are also identified there, and they are shaded or colored with a different color. And the same metals are also shaded with a different color. So they are already separated by colors there. Is it okay now?
Yes, say.
Okay, so you just have a look onto those periodic tables in NS textbook. You will note that there are those three types of elements: metals, non-metals, and semi-metals. Semi-metal, it is an element that has got properties of metal and properties of non-metal. Remember, when we are saying something is metal, it has got a shiny surface, right? You can polish it and it shines very well, right? Then again, you can hammer it into sheets, like the roofing sheets, right? You can hammer it into sheets, and it's malleable, right? It is malleable. Then you can hammer it into a wire, or it's ductile. That's the appropriate term to use. It's ductile. You can shape it into a wire-like material, right? That's the property of metal. But if we are looking at non-metals, if you try and bend it, it breaks, right? most of the non-metallic materials are brittle, which means if you bend it, it breaks there and then, right? It's not ductile and it's not malleable, right? That's what non-metals, right? So you can look for more properties and more metals and non-metals from your periodic table then, right? I think you are fine now. 9.6. When the oxide is mixed with water, what will the pH of the solution be? All right? Oh, I skipped 9.5. The element forms an oxide when it reacts with oxygen. What is the name of the oxide that forms? Now, we are going back to our 9.1. If your answer was sulfur, it means that the oxide that would be formed there, it's sulfur dioxide. It is sulfur dioxide. However, we do also have a compound which is known as sulfur trioxide, right? We also have that compound, right? But the most common one is sulfur dioxide. That's the most common product that is formed when sulfur reacts with what? Oxygen. Now, if your answer was carbon 9.1, it means the oxide that is going to be formed, it's carbon dioxide. That's what is going to be formed there. Or it can form what we call carbon monoxide, right? That's again a product or a compound that is formed when carbon reacts with oxygen, right? If your answer 9.1 was magnesium, it means the magnesium plus oxygen will give off a product known as magnesium oxide. That's magnesium oxide. Remember, any metal plus oxygen, it gives off a metal oxide, right? If it is non-metal, it means it's a non-metal oxide, which is formed, right? Now, that one is covered. So the oxide, it could be carbon dioxide if your answer 9.1 was carbon. If it was sulfur,